So, does ChatGPT make us intellectually passive, or is it, basically the perfect educational tool? It's a debate that is literally everywhere right now. On one hand, researchers like Song and Song point out that AI tools can massively improve writing skills and motivation. But then, on the other hand, scholars like Tang caution that relying too much on AI outputs can actually undermine the very cognitive processes that genuine learning is built on. So, who's right? Well, exploring that question requires a whole lot more than just having an opinion. It requires a carefully structured argument. Welcome to our latest explainer. Today, we're going to tear down the argumentative essay. We aren't just looking at this as some boring writing assignment. We're treating it as a powerful architectural blueprint for high-level disciplinary conversations. Whether you're navigating debates about AI in the classroom or honestly any other hotly contested issue, this blueprint is exactly how you make your voice matter. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll cover the art of argumentation, persuasion versus argumentation, the essay structure blueprint, mastering the counter-argument, gathering evidence through interviews, and finally, strategies for ultimate persuasion. Let's get building.
Section 1. The Art of Argumentation, Establishing the Foundation. Before we build, we really need to establish a solid base. In academic and professional worlds, argumentation is widely considered one of the most cognitively demanding forms of written communication. It goes way, way beyond just stating what you think.
Imagine holding a magnifying glass in one hand and a megaphone in the other. As a writer, you're actually asked to perform a dual role simultaneously. First, you've got to be a fierce advocate for your own position. But second, and this is crucial, you must be a fair-minded analyst of opposing views. If you don't represent the other side accurately, your essay stops being a reasoned argument and just starts sounding like one-sided propaganda. A critical reader simply isn't going to buy it. Section 2. Persuasion versus argumentation. Logic over emotion. To really nail this dual role, we have to make a vital distinction that trips up so many writers. It's super fascinating to separate these two concepts since we usually use the words interchangeably, right? Persuasive writing often appeals directly to the reader's emotions and shared values, sometimes kind of brushing opposing views under the rug to make a sale. But argumentative writing, that is rigidly grounded in verifiable sources, logic, and reasoning. It doesn't hide from counterarguments at all. It tackles them head on. That logic-based foundation is exactly what academia and high-level professional writing demand. Section 3. The Essay Structure Blueprint, Framing the Argument. Now that we know what the goal is, let's look at the actual framing. There's a highly recognizable rhetorical structure at play here. Think of your introduction as the front door. It hooks the reader and sets the stage with a specific, debatable thesis. Your body paragraphs, those are the load-bearing walls, where every single paragraph advances one main point backed up by concrete evidence. Crucially, this is followed by the counter-argument and refutation section, which we'll dive into in a second, before wrapping everything up with a conclusion. The conclusion is basically the roof, summarizing your points and exploring the broader implications of what you just argued. Let's zoom in on those load-bearing walls for a moment. The PL framework is absolutely your best friend here. P is for point. That's your topic sentence. E is for evidence, the concrete empirical data or expert opinion you're dropping in. The second E is for explanation. This is where your unique voice shines, analyzing exactly how that evidence supports your point. And finally, L for link, a sentence that connects this entire paragraph logically right back to your main thesis. It's not just some arbitrary structure. It ensures your reader never gets lost. It guarantees every single piece of data has a job to do. Section 4. Mastering the counter-argument, the crux of the essay. Honestly, this is where a good essay becomes a great one. In fact, studies by researchers like Chuang, Yun, Yang, and Pan consistently show that explicitly handling counterarguments is a defining feature of top-scoring essays. By definition, this sequence means you are explicitly acknowledging, conceding, and rebutting opposing views to strengthen an argument. It sounds totally counterintuitive, right? Like, why would you bring up evidence that actually complicates your position? Well, because doing so proves to your reader that you're an intellectually honest, credible writer. It shows you've looked at the whole picture and you still stand firm. The mechanics of this pivot are everything. First, you start by acknowledging the opposing view fairly. Absolutely no straw man arguments allowed here. Next, you concede partial merit. It is totally okay to admit they make a valid point. Then comes the knockout blow. You refute the claim by explaining why your position is ultimately stronger or just more essential. Let's look at a real-world example from our source material regarding a debate on mandatory school uniforms.
A writer arguing for uniforms might acknowledge that opponents really value expressing individuality through clothing. They might even concede that, yeah, this point has merit. But then comes the forceful pivot. They ask, society must decide if individual expression through clothing is more valuable than improved educational performance. Notice how the writer fairly acknowledges the desire for individuality, but then firmly refutes it by recentering the whole argument on educational outcomes. They literally turn the opponent's point into fuel for their own fire.
Section 5. Gathering evidence through interviews, the raw materials. We've talked structure, but what about the raw materials? Real-world perspectives can elevate an argument like nothing else, and collecting primary data is an amazing way to get them. When you're out in the field gathering qualitative data, you aren't just making it up as you go. There are 3 widely recognized models you can deploy depending on what you're trying to achieve: unstructured, semi-structured, and structured interviews. The 2 extremes here are super interesting. Unstructured interviews are highly organic. You go in with really broad topics, and the flexibility is massive, which is fantastic for exploratory research. On the flip side, structured interviews require predetermined questions asked in an exact, strict sequence. That gives you high comparability across multiple subjects, which is perfect when your research aims are already set in stone. Now, most educational research actually falls right in the middle, with semi-structured interviews, giving you a nice balance of predetermined focus with the freedom to ask organic follow-up questions. Now, if you're sourcing your own evidence, you've got to play by the rules. Think of this as your insider's checklist for rigorous research. Always, always secure informed consent. And while you absolutely should record the audio, don't forget to take manual notes for all those crucial nonverbal cues. Don't be afraid to ask follow-up questions for clarity either. And of course, you must maintain participant anonymity. When it finally comes time to plug this raw material into your essay, just remember that the APA 7th edition says you need to cite these as personal communications. Section 6. Strategies for ultimate persuasion. The polish. Okay, we've got our foundation, our structure, and our raw materials. Now let's talk about the final polish required for a formal academic register. Logical cohesion is what makes an argument truly flow, and research by Osawa actually shows that explicitly focusing on transitional expressions significantly improves overall argumentation scores. Think about this mapping. When you're adding an argument, try using furthermore. When introducing a counterargument, use admittedly. When you're refuting, hit them with a strong however or on the contrary. These aren't just empty filler words, they're literal signposts that guide your reader's brain right through your complex logic. As you're applying that final polish, run your draft through this quick-fire checklist of common structural pitfalls. Does your thesis state a mere fact instead of an arguable position? Are you just stating opinions without citing any evidence? Did you accidentally forget to include a counterargument? Is your refutation just purely dismissive? And of course, are your citations flawless? Dodging these common errors is exactly how you protect the structural integrity of your entire argument. Which brings us to our final question. We've deconstructed the argumentative essay, not just as some writing task, but as a framework for participating in really high-stakes conversations. By fully embracing your dual role as both a fair-minded analyst and a fierce advocate, you basically have the tools to make people listen. So looking out at the debates swirling around us today, from AI in the classroom to the policies shaping our communities, how will you construct your next argument? Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and we'll see you next time.